All right, then I guess we should probably get into it.
Yeah, go
shouldn't
ahead.
we? And by getting into it, I mean you should be buying Islander, which if you haven't done yet, what are you doing? You just sitting around doing nothing with your life? What are you doing? Reading books? Reading books like Tolkien or something?
What are you, a
Islander.
nerd? Read Islander, it'll make you cool.
It will make you cool. Some say it comes with experience points that boost your cool ratings and your stats. I don't say this, but some have said. Some have said that it will automatically graft a pair of sunglasses onto you at all times, especially when you're indoors, so you're extra cool. I don't think that's true, but who knows? But I do know that it's got great artwork, great articles. You've heard all of this before. Chill out your 15 quid, you stingy bastards. All right.
That's right. Or Harry will get you.
All right. I don't actually have a mouse, so there we go. All
We're
right.
a professional outlet here.
We're a very professional outlet. All right. Okay. So, the news has broke the other day that Jeremy Boring, the co-CEO of the Daily Wire, has decided to step down. There was some people reporting that he was leaving the company altogether. That was incorrect, because what he's actually doing is he's stepping down from the role as co-CEO purely to focus on creative projects for the company. And he was he told this to his staff in a memo that Axios obtained. They were the first ones to report on this. Jeremy Boring himself reposted this on his Twitter account. And as far as I'm aware, as of yet, the other presenters of Daily Wire, because Jeremy Boring counts as a presenter. He's a very, very up and front CEO, because he hosts one of the backstage shows where he interviews, I think, Matt Walsh, Andrew Klavan, and Ben Shapiro.
Similar to how Carl is the CEO of Lotus Eaters, and he's on camera all the time.
Yeah, but Carl was like a content producer first and foremost before Lotus Eaters, whereas Jeremy Boring, as far as I'm aware, was attempting to start a career in Hollywood previously, and then started financing the Daily Wire and etc., etc. But Caleb Robinson, the company's founding CEO, will become the company's full-time CEO effective immediately. Robinson and Boring have been co-CEOs since 2019. In the note to staff, Boring said he will remain with the company in an advisory role. He'll continue to host Daily Wire backstage, and he'll focus full-time on creative projects, including the completion of the Daily Wire's TV series, The Pendragon Cycle, in which he serves as director and executive producer. And some information I got from another article was that last year, Boring said that the Daily Wire was on track to hit $200 million in annual revenue, which, to be clear, is separate from profits. Revenue is the gross intake, profits is what you have after expenses.
They've taken on a lot of expenses, from what it sounds like, haven't they?
With the film companies.
Yeah, I was very surprised when I started seeing films coming out of the Daily Wire, because I was thinking to myself, how on earth are they able to finance this sort of thing? Like, they have their own channel with their own programs.
Yeah, they've got their Daily Wire Plus, and they've also got, I think, a children's network called Bentkey, which is apparently named after some old theatre company that he used to be part of.
Interesting name, though.
Yeah, it's a very strange name. It's not the one that I would have gone to, but clearly very sentimental for him. And apparently last year as well, the company was valued at more than $1 billion in its most recent round of funding. So I have nothing against the Daily Wire, personally. I don't really watch any of their stuff, if I'm honest. We've watched a few of the things that they've produced in the past, like the Matt Walsh What is a Woman documentary. But with their films and the things that they've been producing, like in this picture here, you can see that he's got the lady, I think, what was it, Lady Ballers? I saw the trailer for that pop up all over the place.
I would like to add as well that we can object to the things that the presenters say and not hold a grudge against the outlet, right?
Absolutely. I quite like Matt Walsh sometimes, and then he'll make a completely stupid statement about video games and how...
I remember that one.
And how grown men shouldn't play video games, and I just think to myself, man, you need to chill out, Matt.
Yeah, I don't think people should necessarily police people's hobbies in a way where it seems to be quite harmless. If you're just relaxing and you're just like, you're not working... Well, I think that actually life should have a bit of a balance. But that's
obviously we've engaged in that discussion before. Yeah, video games are fine. Just don't overindulge in them. The same as that you can do with anything else. But the thing is that this has begun a lot of rumours and a lot of speculation, because it comes quite fast after Last year, they lost Candace Owens. They decided to split with Candace Owens due to the fact that she was courting a lot of controversy with Rabbi Shmuley. I covered a lot of that at the time. She had other interviews with other rabbis that got her in a lot of trouble. She was dubbed Candace Ovens at one point, which is
one of my favourite nicknames for a presenter. Not because, I necessarily agree with the characterization. It's just a funny name.
Yeah, Rabbi Shmuley needs to have a greatest hits compilation out there because that man is a one-man meme machine.
I don't know what his politics
Remember
are,
the
but he's funny.
I think he's Republican because he's...
Is he really?
I think he might be Donald Trump's anti-Semitism international envoy. Yes.
The man who dressed up
as
like
the Candace Owens Jew. I hope you all
well
remember that one, or this is going to sound like complete nonsense to you. And to be fair, even if you do know what I'm talking about, it's still complete nonsense because
funny nonsense.
The man is a cartoon character ripped straight from a Goebbels propaganda film. But he owns it. He owns it.
He's got a sense of humour.
Yeah, he does have a sense of humour. Also, a sex toy company with his daughter.
That's very strange.
That is very strange. It's kosher sex toys. Anyway, so she got in a lot of trouble talking about that sort of stuff. And so the company and Candace Owens decided to split ways. I think it was less than amicable because Jeremy Boring himself was quite unhappy with Candace Owens. And then just a few months ago, Brett Cooper, who, as far as I'm aware, outside of like the big names, was the company's fastest rising new star. Her videos on YouTube, on the comments section, were getting like almost 1 million views, between 500,000 and 1 million views each. She announces that she's leaving the company as well.
That seemed to be a different situation. I didn't really follow it because I try to keep...
Well, there was a lot of drama. A lot of this always ends up just being he said, she said, whispering behind the scenes drama that goes on. But it does have larger implications for the company and where the company is going. Because at the same time as around that, December 10th, I believe, Brett Cooper announced that she was leaving on December 11th. There was sudden speculation that Fox News were eyeing up potential acquisitions of conservative podcast companies, including the Daily Wire. Boring addressed this himself and said the company isn't actively looking for a buyer, but were not closed off to an offer. So that was some strange news to come out at the same time as all of this. And again, it has all led to a lot of speculation. Now, Ian Carroll is a somewhat divisive figure. He was actually a really good source of information for all of the Diddy stuff that was coming out last year, and I liked some of the stuff that he's put out. The ADL did do a little warning on Joe Rogan after Joe Rogan had Ian Carroll on.
Because everyone knows that the ADL are the ultimate arbiters of what is allowed to be said.
The most trustworthy organisation, and there's nothing suspicious at all about the circumstances in which they were set up in the 1910s.
I go to the
whatsoever.
ADL for all of my information, and they're so impartial.
Oh, absolutely. It was so great how they strong-armed Iceland into not banning circumcision. That's still an absurd story to me that they managed to do that. But either way, so just full disclosure, Ian Carroll, I don't watch all of his stuff. I see him pop up every so often. A lot of the stuff that he gets is basically like allegations, rumours, hearsay, and he is also a supporter of Candace Owens. So he does have his own perspective.
Seen of him, though, what he says is interesting, and I can tell that he's trying to be impartial. Whether he is or not, obviously, it's not up to me to say, but he at least has things to contribute. But
the information that he gives in here is interesting because he's stating that he has sources from inside the Daily Wire itself who are dissatisfied with how the company is being run. And in this video, Candace Owens did just 2 days ago, where she was addressing the news that Jeremy Boring was stepping down. She said that she had learned from Ian Carroll himself information about the inner workings of the Daily Wire and why she was let go that even she wasn't made aware of. So it does seem that he has insider contacts on this kind of thing. So what he has said, and these are all allegations, speculation. Again, I don't really watch the Daily Wire. I have no personal investment in whether they succeed or fail.
We also live in the political commentary sphere, so
yeah.
I find I don't watch any other political content because I just go directly to the source and figure it out for myself. Because also, as a content creator, if I dare call myself that, you sort of don't want to listen to what other people are saying because it's
coloured by other people, right?
Yeah, I feel like it's almost bit of bad form to it's like reading the room and then trying to say the thing that is the most socially acceptable. I try and avoid that if possible.
Yeah, I have that same impulse. You want to be original, and you also want to have integrity. So I don't really watch The Daily Wire. I don't watch Steven Crowder. I don't watch any of these American shows. I will occasionally watch Oron McIntyre or Dave Smith if they have a particularly interesting guest on. But that's about as much as I do. Most of my content that I watch is like wrestling audiobooks and
Wrestling audiobooks.
it's a very interesting experience.
It's very niche.
Yeah, it is. It really gets your imagination going.
I didn't know you listen to those, Harry.
No, and I also I also watch a lot of history stuff and read books, which is very nice. But you should be reading Islander, not reading books. Islander's much better for you. But anyway, Ian's information that he gives is that he is saying that there is potentially outside finance and investment companies, particularly a company called Silver Lake, who are going to be coming in, investing in the Daily Wire.
Well, he's heard rumours that they're interested.
These are all rumours. This is all stuff that he's heard from his sources from within the Daily Wire. People as well in the replies have been saying things like, you say allegedly a lot in this, bro. He's saying that he trusts his sources. So
I think that's important to say allegedly, because if you know something for certain, and it's been proved to you by a source, and you know without a doubt that it's true, you can afford to not say allegedly. But I think it is important, if you're hearing things as accounts of other people that might have an interest in feeding you false stories potentially, it is important to ring fence this and say, listen, this is what I've been told, so take it with a pinch of salt. I mean, so I don't think that's a criticism.
Well, the other thing is that he did in December last year, December 2nd, managed to break the news. He said that there was a scoop coming, which was that Brett Cooper would be leaving the company and that they might be forcing her out and replacing her with her best friend. Now, of course, since that has happened, she was replaced by her best friend, who she doesn't seem to be friends with anymore, for the same show, which now its views are nowhere near as high as they used to be. They've gone from like 500,000 to 1 million per video to like 20 to 50,000 per video, which, is still not awful, but nowhere near the figures that they were getting before. They don't seem to be friends anymore, but people who are involved have denied that they forced her out or that they were intentionally replacing her with her best friend. She was just offered a contract because she was friends with Brett, etc., etc. But he did manage to say that it looks like she's leaving about a week before she announced it herself. Or a week and a half even. So, he does seem to be on the money with some of this stuff, and if it is coming from his inside sources, then he does seem to be able to get some accurate information from it, even if some of it can be a little bit, not necessarily tainted, but not always accurate, or at least not always completely accurate. But then again as well, we don't actually know what was going on behind the scenes.
I imagine that with a lot of these things, there's a lot of complicated things that, were you to know the full picture, it'd be very different than what goes on in the outside. I've sort of...
Yeah, there's two sides to every story.
There always is, isn't there? And it's interesting because I think the suggestion that maybe the Daily Wire is not doing too well, that I've heard Ian Carroll talk about, that is going to change the political landscape of the so-called online right in America and the world, isn't it? It's not...
Yeah,
I know it sounds very...
company with huge names attached to them. Not to say that people like Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, Michael Knowles wouldn't be able to survive outside of it. They would do great. But having that one company that it's all focused around disappear, if what he's saying is true, or at least fundamentally change its organizational structure, would be a big change.
Yeah, and I might say something a little bit controversial here. I think that the Daily Wire going away might be a good thing if it does happen.
How so?
I think a lot of the time it seems like it's almost... This is just my opinion. It seems like they've become very commercial, and they're sort of becoming the mainstream media in a lot of ways. And it's not to criticize everyone blanketly. I'm just talking about my overall vibe, which isn't worth much, let's be honest.
No, that's fair. I mean, from what is being alleged here, the company has been incredibly centered around Jeremy Boring himself and his own aspirations of becoming a Hollywood star, Hollywood insider film company.
Which is expensive.
Yeah, and he has said in different interviews that he's given like character profiles of himself that he's always been very passionate about film, wanting to start things. They started their own film company. They've done a few films here and there. They announced a Snow White adaptation with Brett Cooper, which was discussed recently on the Tim Pool show, where they were saying, don't think it's happening anymore. The last update on it was back in 2023 when it was announced. Nothing's come of that as of yet.
Completely worthless speculation is with him stepping down, they're moving away from the film side of things, which is very expensive and very risky, as are all films, not just Daily Wire films, just filmmaking in general, as we well know.
Yes.
You are taking a big risk with a film. It could be a great film, could be well received and just not make money. And so it's one of those things where if you're being fiscally conservative and trying to build a political commentary empire, you wouldn't necessarily look at it because it is a way of potentially throwing everything you built into a fire.
Well, yeah, because as we've mentioned many times when covering films before, the budget is not the only thing that you're spending on the television show. You're also spending about the same amount as the budget, typically, for the marketing as well. Yeah, the rule of thumb, whatever the budget is, double it for the marketing costs as well. So for a television series like they were trying to produce with the Pendragon cycle, which was supposed to be produced and released on their platform last year and is still nowhere to be seen, that's a huge investment. That's a huge cost. Television is ridiculously expensive to produce, especially if you're talking about high fantasy television. And then you've got to go into all of the marketing as well. And so you can say we've got a revenue, $200 million. That's fantastic. But where is that revenue going?
And I
imagine the contracts for people like Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro are expensive enough by themselves. And then if you decide that you're going to go on and produce television with all the expenses there as well, $200 million is not even the budget of a single high-budget Hollywood film these days. What was it? That bloody Red One, The Rock, where wasn't the budget for that like $250 million by itself, with The Rock taking $50 million for his own paycheck for that?
It's also worth mentioning, again, a bit more speculation, but I could see something happening where a lot of money is going towards these long-term, multi-year commitments to make films, and say someone in the Daily Wire suddenly has a sort of meteoric rise, and they don't have any wiggle room to renegotiate a contract that's more appropriate with their newfound acclaim and viewership, because the Daily Wire has a lot of money tied up in these projects. I could see it causing a lot of problems with people feeling like they're being undervalued and perhaps being ripped off in a stronger sense, because the Daily Wire, even with the best intentions, might not be able to give them what they deserve. And from what I've heard,
be malicious, it can just be trying to overextend yourself as a company.
And from what I've heard, it seems to be the case that there have been lots of people that are sour on contracts and things like that.
I mean, Steven Crowder made his whole feelings known about the contract that was offered to him 2 years ago, even though it was, a $50 million contract.
Yeah, when I heard that, I was like, wow, okay, that...
I think it was spread out over like 5 or 10 years, I believe. But I think his main complaint was the fact that he didn't want to have to stick so rigidly to the terms of YouTube and platforms like that are going to censor him.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
It's annoying to have to deal with YouTube terms.
Yeah, don't I know it, yeah.
Yeah, but basically, Ian Carroll is alleging that what he has been told is that things like the film company, the Pendragon cycle in particular, might be moved away from Daily Wire because burring is not permitted inside the company. I don't know how true that is, but he does say that the series is apparently over budget by about $50 million.
Often happen.
I could believe that. Very, very easy thing to have happen, especially when its production cycle has gone well beyond what they were originally planning for, if they were originally planning on releasing it last year. Apparently, as a result of this, loads of the producers' company credit cards got frozen, and he does say that the company is bankrupt. We'll see in the future if any of this comes out to be true, but it is very, very interesting, and he said that the Fox News deal, mentioning that, was a way of Jeremy Boring and other people trying to drum up interest in outside investment to the company to try and recoup some of those funds. Because whether or not they're in a great financial situation right now, we'll see if that's true or not. It is still a huge platform. big brand recognition. So if you got outside investors to come in, they might be able to reformat things, fix things up. You never know.
It happens a lot with companies, doesn't it?
Yeah. It remains to be seen whether that actually happens or not, or if any of this is true. The other thing I wanted to mention was just, of course, Candace Owens talking about this. She, fair play to her, was very, very down the line with all of this. She was not gloating. She did not go into any petty backstage rumor mill stuff. But she did say that Jeremy Boring was a very, again, front and center CEO, which for a person who, as far as I'm aware, was not a content creator like Carl was before he got involved in the company, was very, very unusual. We know that he wanted a career in Hollywood, and he wanted to try to turn the Daily Wire into his pet project for a big Hollywood film style production company. And she also said it was always funny that whenever there was a product that they were about to release, like the razors after the Gillette controversy and the chocolate bars after Hershey's and everything, it was always somebody else's idea, according to Candace, and then he would just name it after himself. Also,
Lovely.
Also, he
Modest.
refers to himself as the God King.
Also, very modest.
So it does seem that him stepping back as the co-CEO might be a PR move. It might also be to quell some of the issues that are developing within the Daily Wire. Again, all we know is rumors and things that are coming from secondhand sources. But with everything that's been said, the lineup, the personnel changes that have been happening over the past year, I wouldn't be surprised if some of this turns out to be true. He's obviously got a big personality. He obviously is a very, very ambitious person. And that, in a company like this, can grind against people and grind against the overall ambitions of the company as it was originally started. You start off as, we're going to be a conservative commentary channel where we do all of this cultural stuff. And then he goes, I want to make movies. That's a big shift.
It is.
That's a huge shift, especially when you're trying to stand up to, I think the Snow White announcement was in response to Disney's announcement.
You've also, as a political company, you've already disaffected, 50% of the American population by being a political company.
Yes.
So you've got a much
You've
harder
narrowed your
job
market.
with a much narrower budget. You've really got to thread a needle to make it work there.
Yeah, but to be fair to her, she said that whatever is happening behind the scenes, she thinks it's a good move. Perhaps, again, also there's also the fact that over the past 10 days or so, he has been very aggressive towards people on Twitter, and I don't know if having the co-CEO of the company, who's got such a public profile, getting into feuds with people constantly was maybe the look that the Daily Wire were going for.
It's not a good idea, even if you're. It's not a good idea, even if you're, on your own. You're a solo act.
Not that I would know about drumming up controversy on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm a good boy.
Tell us about it, Harry.
I'm a little angel. Just check my feed. I'm a good boy.
Most of the time, it's just people being annoyed at me. I don't tend to have a go at people that much.
Yeah,
although my segment yesterday, I was having a go at someone.
I did manage to get into some trouble yesterday by just pointing out that most white Americans are of English and British ancestry.
That's not an insult.
They didn't like that.
We are British. We mean it.
Is that such an insult? Robert E. Lee's ancestors were from Shropshire. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
We mean it as a compliment.
Yeah, exactly. At least you're not, I don't know, French, like those Canadians. Anyway, so everyone was being very even-handed. We'll see what comes of this. I don't want the Daily Wire to fail. I don't want them to have anything bad go on. I don't want people's careers to be destroyed if they do go under, because there will be certainly a lot of really good people working in the company. But we'll see. It remains to be seen if the rumours that are going around right now are true.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.